And I thought, okay, I'm going to go into this. I'm going to drink the medicine. It's going to be a lot of light, love, peace, happiness. It's going to rewire my brain and I'm going to be good to go. That was the furthest thing from what happened.
And I'm here with my guest today, Rita McGowan. And how are you today, Rita?
I'm good, Teresa. Thanks for having me on. I greatly appreciate you.
Yeah, it really is an honor. After talking with you the other day, we spent over an hour, I think, on the
Yeah, we
phone. Your
did.
story just really had me, hanging on the edge of my seat because you, woman, are a powerhouse, and I had to get you on. And so I'm just really excited about whatever comes up in this conversation today. You are an overcomer, and
Mhm.
your story is like so many people out there, so many people. I'm not going to give a lot away because I want you to tell it, but so many people are going to resonate with your
Mhm.
story. And that is basically white knuckling it through life after having had a series of incredibly traumatic events happen during childhood and then compounded trauma that happens after that. Because after we're traumatized children, we run around and like chickens with our head cut off. We fall immediately into alignment with more abusive scenarios, more chaos until, hopefully one day we have the opportunity to encounter something that transforms our life. And that's the work that we do
Mhm.
in ceremony and with Sacred Warrior Fellowship is we stand at the crossroads of people's lives when they've come to the end of their rope, so to speak, or they've
Mhm.
tried all the things to deal with their anxieties, to deal with their PTSD, to deal with the depression, to deal with all these things.
Mhm.
And they've done all the things.
Mhm.
And it just feels like we get to stand at that crossroad in people's lives when it comes to ceremonial work and the work that we do to bring people back into the heart of, I want to say the mother, because the medicine brings us to the heart of
Mhm.
the mother. And for you, in your case, even though I've never served and or even sat with ayahuasca yet, but
Mhm.
you have. And so I want you to jump on in and tell us a little bit about, your background and what was going on in your life when the invitation to come into medicine space, to come into um, the sacrament of ayahuasca. Tell me what led you up to that.
Yeah, thank you for that. I really appreciate you having me on here today so that I can share my story. First off, I'm Rita. Hi, everybody out there in listening land. I'm a wife to a retired first responder and a mom to two incredible young men. But really, the woman I am today was shaped by a very, very different beginning. I grew up in a home where safety, stability didn't really exist, like so many out there, unfortunately, in our generation. My childhood was marked by chaos, sexual abuse, a mother who struggled with serious mental health challenges, um, a stepfather who was abusive in many aspects, not only verbally, but sexually abusive, a father who was hands off because he started his own new family, if you will. And it just, like many survivors, I carried pain and patterns for years that I didn't really truly fully understand. Because, remember, I was just a child. This all
Exactly.
started when I was a little itty bitty girl. My parents got divorced when I was 2. My mother brought this man into our home when I was 4, and the abuse started when I was 6. Like I stated, I carried that pattern, that pain for years that I really truly didn't fully understand because I was so little when it started. And that really shaped how I moved through the world, my relationships with individuals, my relationship with myself,
Absolutely.
the the hatred I had for myself. the hatred I had towards the world, the anger, the amount of anger I had inside of me, carrying that with me for decades, and as an adult, as I got older, I followed those traditional paths of therapy, medications. I mean, Teresa, at one point, I was on 9 different psychiatric medications. You start one, you go to another, and then you go to another because it's just compounding. It's constantly compounding. And it wasn't working. It really wasn't. It numbed me. It made me less of who I am, for a lack of better. I had no emotions, absolutely nothing while I was on all of that medication. And to the point where I really truly feel like the amount of medications I was on to quote unquote help me actually harmed me. I was in and out of different long term care psychiatric outpatient doctors,
Yeah.
seeing them, just trying to manage my day to day. But I knew deep down inside that this wasn't actually healing me. This was harming me.
Wow.
And, that search eventually led to plant medicine for me. The search of this can't be the only thing out there for me to help me. I had been in therapy for decades. I had been on medications for decades, and I still wasn't finding any kind of relief. Um, and so I went on a journey, and I'm still on the journey. I ran off to South America, for a lack of better, and worked with shamans in the Andean mountains. I did ayahuasca, I did San Pedro, I did psilocybin, and there's light at the end of the tunnel. There really, truly is with those. There's hope. They give you hope. I jokingly tell people that when I quote unquote ran off, if you will, I did 40 plus years worth of healing in 6 days.
Incredible.
Com-
Incredible.
It
Incredible.
completely, it completely changed my life. It changed my outlook on myself.
Yeah.
And having that changed outlook on myself then in turn allowed my other relationships to flourish. My
Yeah, let's talk
relationship with
about
my
you've been
yeah.
married for how many years?
So we're going to be celebrating our 10-year wedding anniversary in August, my
Oh,
husband and I are.
that's amazing. And he's law enforcement, right?
He is. He's retired federal DOD law enforcement.
Okay. And your son, I know we talked, is the same age as my oldest, right? 19?
Yes, he's 19. He's a double major in computer science engineering and music composition at a
Yeah.
small school out in the Midwest, and he's thriving. And then I also have an older stepson who's 30, who is absolutely thriving as well. And I truly believe that these two young men are thriving because their father and I stopped the generational trauma.
Amen. You are doing the work. And what an
We're really
incredible blessing.
trying.
You are. And what that goes a long way. What an incredible, incredible blessing to have these opportunities to do the work that our parents didn't get to do. And, when I woke up this morning, I don't know what's going on in the dream realm, but I didn't even open my eyes yet. And I was hit with this wave of grief
Mhm,
about the way I treated my little brother growing up.
mhm,
I grew up in a family of 4 children, being the oldest.
mhm,
And for me, the sexual abuse happened also when I was very young. I was just about 8 or 9 years old when somebody who was very trusted, my dad's employer, was
mhm,
invited into our home and molested me, groomed me. And
mhm,
after that happened, I actually didn't tell my family. There was so much humiliation, so
mhm,
much shame. And I did end up telling a little girl one day who was living with us. Her and her dad were living with us, and she was in a grade just above me, and some um, sexual abuse awareness counselors had come into our school
Mhm.
to talk about what you can do if you have been a victim of this or if you know someone who has. And she spoke
Mhm.
up. And later that afternoon, when a detective had come to my house, of course, after I was called into the office and the police were called, and all this is going on, and this is exactly what I didn't want to happen.
Exactly.
Incredibly humiliating. I think I was having out of body experiences the entire day because imagine, like you just said to me before we started this podcast, this is the first time you are sharing your story
Mhm.
publicly. I was 9 years old. I didn't tell anyone because I was humiliated. And now I'm in a principal's office with probably four teachers holding on to the chair, thinking to myself, I'm just not even sure I'm here at this moment. I'm having to tell my story essentially to a
Mhm.
bunch of
Mhm.
people in a room. Meanwhile, the police are on the way to my house. I got to tell it again and
Mhm.
again and again and again. So later that day, uh, the whole day is a little blurry to me at the moment, but a detective walks in the door. And let me tell you what, I feel so blessed that in my life, I could have had, I could have turned that experience into a reason to think all men suck
Mhm.
and
Oh,
that all men,
100%.
right? It
Yeah.
could have destroyed my ability to connect with the opposite sex for the rest of my life. But it's to me, I say that the universe, God, happened to put men who were heroes in my path
Mhm.
at the same time.
Yeah.
And here he was, law enforcement, walks in my home, my hero,
Mhm.
the first person that day that asked me if this had ever happened before. The first person in my day that walked in and said, "Wait a minute, I want to hear from her." The
Mhm.
first person that cared about what was going through my mind. He told my whole house, "Be quiet, I want to talk to her." And because of whoever that man was, coming into the scenario at the same time that, I'm dealing with this traumatic wounding, it planted the seed that
Mhm.
there are men, there are sick men, and there are also
Good man.
heroes, good men.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I'm so thankful for that. But in that moment, because when you and I talked about this the other day too, you told me that you also had suppressed memories, right?
I
So
do, I do. One of my earliest memories that I have, very similar to yours, but different with a hero. One of my first earliest memories was I was 4 years old. My parents had already divorced at this point in time, and we moved out of the house that my parents had shared together. And we moved into this old country farmhouse out in the middle of nowhere, Nowheresville, Midwest, on acreage, and my abuser was living with us. It was my mother's boyfriend at the time. He had he was an inmate at the county jail for various reasons. He had a couple felons. Mom was a nurse there, fell in love with him. That whole fun little story of nurse falling in love with the inmate. I swear if I tried to make this stuff up, I really couldn't, when it comes to my life. But she eventually got let go for the county jail. There's many reasons why, one of them dating the inmate, also having her sister live with us, her sister who was a drug addict, and on top of it, she was dating one of the prolific drug dealers in my area. And, so she and her young son were living with us at the time, so was my abuser. The abuse hadn't started happening just yet at this point in time. But to go off of my story with a hero, 4 years old, living in that house with a drug addict, my brother, my cousin who's the same age as me, my abuser, and my mother. our house got burnt down. I was in a house fire when I was 4.
Wow.
Like I stated, I didn't really know at that point in time what it was about because I was 4. All I remember is waking up in my bedroom to the smell of what smelled like a fire pit. That just like smoldering, burning of wood and plastic and all of that. And then I saw kind of like a light glow underneath my bedroom door. And I didn't really put 2 and 2 together because, like I said, I was 4 years old. And next thing I know, my bedroom door opens and there's this man just standing there. 4 years old, it was probably an alien in my brain. However, it was a firefighter, and he was there to rescue me because my house was in flames. And he snatched me up. He wrapped me in one of those silver blankets, and he took me out and placed me in the ambulance. And I got looked over, but like nowhere to be found was my mother.
And
Nowhere to be found.
this was a suppressed memory, right? This was
Yeah.
something that you found in therapy later.
Yeah.
It
Yes.
came back up, and
I
that's where I was going with that, is that when he walked in addition to the hero, what an incredible story. Hats off to our heroes, because that
Yeah.
with, Sacred Warrior Fellowship, we just really want to be there for all of those that
Mhm.
have been on the front lines for us. These men and women that we're talking about here that impacted our lives. But I want to jump back real quick to the repressed memories, because when he walked in the door and said, "Did this ever happen to you before?" Next thing you know, I have a full detailed memory. And let me tell you what, for our listeners and
Mhm.
people that are watching, that is a very common thing that happens when you start taking the journey. If you've been in therapy for any time, if you've done
Mhm.
any type of repressed memory therapy,
Mhm.
one of the first things that we tend to do is reject it, but I was young enough that I didn't have anything inside of me that said reject it. But what
Mhm.
happened was, when I was maybe 4 or 5 years old, somewhere around there, those years, it's a little blurry, but what I did
Mhm.
describe exactly was what was happening in the house that day. So I was able to say to my parents, we were moving, our furniture was being packed. Mom, you were sitting on
Mhm.
a rolled up carpet. And I described the carpet. I described the people that had come into my room the night before,
Yeah.
and it was 2 teenage boys. And I described what happened, but here it was, this man standing there, and it wasn't until he said that this memory came back up, which, in hindsight, when I started going through the sexual abuse recovery, I
Mhm.
realized that I hadn't said anything to my family when it happened at 8 and 9 years old, because when it happened when I was younger,
Mhm.
it for whatever reasons, it wasn't addressed. And in talking to my mom in later years, she genuinely didn't know it
Mhm.
happened. But for me, in my mind as a child, it was, I'm not heard, and why tell
Mhm.
anyone? In addition to all of the humiliation that you feel. Um,
Oh, yeah.
and like I said, when I woke up this morning, I had these feelings of remorse, even though I know that I've gone through so much healing in the area of things that I did when I was broken. Things that I did when
Mhm.
I was still living in reactive
Mhm.
survival PTSD. And as a child, not knowing what was going on in my brain, not
Mhm.
knowing why I had that hate and that anger, because
Yeah.
it started early. I became a runaway at 9. I was constantly running away. They'd bring me back and run away. They'd bring me back and
Mhm.
run away. And I was an angry, angry child.
That
And,
hit so close to home for me. I
you
I
know,
feel that 100%. I wasn't a runaway, but my trauma, developed into me using alcohol, abusing
right.
alcohol, starting at an early age, abusing drugs at an early age, being with boys who were way too old for me. at an early age, trying to find anything that would fill that void inside of me, not knowing that I had that void because I was so young, I was so
Right.
naive. But like you, carrying that shame, carrying that hurt, that pain, that anger. I mean, that anger is real and justified. And like
Mm,
you, I'm so grateful that even though I had all that anger, all that hurt, all that pain inside of me, and all those issues that I dealt with for decades, specifically with relationships, that it didn't jade me.
mm,
I'm one of those people, I root for love like you would not believe. I am like, everybody deserves to be seen, to be heard, to be loved, whether it's by friends, family, children, a partner, everybody deserves it. And so I'm really grateful that whoever's watching out for me, my ancestors,
mm.
spirit guides, whoever, didn't allow me to close my heart off.
Mm.
Yeah.
You know, that's, that's so baffling to me,
Mhm.
how it seems as though some people are truly wired to think differently. You
Mhm.
know, that is also why I'm extremely fascinated with astrology, because when I look at, the people's natal charts, I can see where they are almost predisposition for a
Mhm.
certain type of mindset. Not everybody will default to that optimistic look on love after being
Mhm.
through what they've been through. You were wired in such a way. A lot of this may also have to do with past life experiences and what you've come in to this experience with as a soul. I do believe that we come in with gnosis, with knowledge of former
Mhm.
lives within us that activates at certain points on our journey. And so for me, that's, that has become something that feels like an explanation as to why some of us can take a more victorious approach and others
Mhm.
get kind of stuck in victim, you know?
Yeah.
And also some people struggle getting stuck in ownership of
Oh, yeah,
that anger.
definitely.
Like, how did you
Yeah.
end up letting go of the anger? How did you end up, yeah, letting go of it?
Yeah.
And when?
It took me decades to let go of the anger, and I still to this day fight it on a daily basis, the anger. It's an ever evolving thing, but I'm just gonna be real with you. Going going to South America, that's what did it for me. Going and getting outside of my own echo chamber and taking that leap of faith, even though that leap of faith was all brought on by insecurities in my life and in my relationship. But going down there, it allowed me to release that energy. I mean, goodness gracious, I remember my first ayahuasca ceremony. This was back in February of 2023. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go into this. I'm going to drink the medicine. It's going to be a lot of light, love, peace, happiness. It's going to rewire my brain and I'm going to be good to go. That was the furthest thing from what happened for me. And I know I'm not alone in this. If there's others out there who are listening to this who have had the same experience as me, no, we're not alone. I got anger, I got rage. I After the purging stopped, wave of anger and rage
Mhm.
came to me. 6 hours, I sat there for 6 hours with rage and anger. And the next day afterwards, once I was back to quote unquote normal, had my sleep, kind of sat with everything that I had went through that night. I sat with the anger for hours. I mean, it seemed like it was 24 hours, but in all actuality, it was really only 6, 7 hours that I sat with it. And then I went to sleep afterwards, woke up the next morning, and I was still uber angry. I was just like, what the crap? It didn't work. I've read all these things that it was supposed to make me feel better. You know,
Mm.
I I was angry about that.
Right. Right. It
About
didn't work. I
it didn't
came all the way
work.
out here. I spent all this money.
Yes.
Right away, we're going to blame everything else out here for not working.
1000%,
That's that
but
default mode network, but you had an opportunity because now that was the time for you to start changing that default mode network. So tell me how that started to change for you, how you started to make
so
new neural pathways.
yeah, so the real work, I sat with that anger. I was ready to quit. I was ready to give up. It was a 6-day retreat. So there were other ceremonies that happened. I had a San Pedro ceremony, then another ceremony that was part of, they call it a Tesmacal. And it's where you go into a brick hut
It's a
and you
sweat
do a
lodge, the temazcal, the sweat
sweat
lodge.
lodge.
Mhm.
I did a 16-hour sweat lodge with the
Woo!
combination of San Pedro and grandmother Aya.
Beautiful.
I did not make it the whole 16 hours. I only made it about, I'm going to say about 9, 10 hours.
Good for
And
you. That's amazing.
that was like a rebirth.
It is.
Crawling out of that sweat lodge onto the cold grass
Yes.
really, really struck a chord in me. And something clicked inside of me that said, Rita, you need to stop this victim mentality. It was not
Mhm.
your fault. You did absolutely nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Those others need to be held accountable for their actions, not you because you were just a child. You
Oof.
need to break
So good.
those generational traumas in your life. That's what you were put here for. It was like a major epiphany as I'm laying there on the cold, wet ground at like 3:30 in the morning, looking up at the sky in the Andes Mountains and going, "You need to get your crap together, girl." Even if it's just not for even if it's not for you, you need to get your crap together for your kids.
Mm.
And it like I said, it's like a light bulb clicked off inside of me, and the integration was a really is really, really important after sitting with the medicine. You can't just take it and then go, "Okay, I'll be good afterwards." That was the mistake that I learned, thinking that I would be good the day after. It's a continuous, ever evolving thing. You have to continuously integrate it because new things are gonna come up, like you talked about, like we discussed memories, repressed memories.
Hmm.
I had very few memories of my childhood, very few memories. I didn't remember birthday parties. The
Yeah.
only memories I really truly had were of being at my dad's parents' house, my grandparents' house. Other than that, none.
Yeah,
And
because the mind is so incredible in that
protect you.
it does. It protects you. Before we get
Mhm,
too much into integration, I want to step back a little bit and go a little bit more into how the effects of trauma impacted the relationship with your husband and your children,
mhm.
because you mentioned that if you do this for no one else, at least do it for them. So what
Yeah.
was it that you knew you were not okay with staying the same way as it pertains to how you were showing up in those relationships?
For me, you know, when I said, "If you're not gonna just do it for yourself, do it for your kids,"
Yeah.
my children have nobody other than us. My eldest stepson's mother passed away decades ago, so I'm the only mom he has. My child, unfortunately, with my first marriage, I didn't quite find the right man to have a child with, and he has a very limited relationship with his father. Um, and it's me. It's just me and my husband with those 2 boys, and I couldn't see their lives without me in it and without a healthy mom in it. Because there were times where I thought about ending my life multiple times in my 20s and 30s. I suffered from massive postpartum depression after I had my youngest. I thought about that many times when he was a small itty bitty baby. Um, but they kept me going.
I know that story so well myself. In the beginning of my healing journey, I was in my early 30s and I was going to sexual abuse recovery therapy in a group
Mhm,
setting. But at that point, I knew that the anger, the irritability, because how the anger played out for me as a mom of young
mhm,
children was in control and
mhm,
in always feeling like I'm fighting myself because
mhm.
I knew the mom I wanted to be, and I was her as much
To
as
an
I
extent.
could be,
Mhm.
but it was a constant fighting of what wanted to be. And
Yes.
so it created this inner tension and this constant anxiety and this constant need to do and fix and be. And oh my gosh, I
Mhm,
couldn't let a pile of clothes sit there even though they did without bothering me.
mhm,
I
mhm.
I was just so overwhelmed. And back then, for me, it was like it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Mhm.
I made friends with other moms who had the whole like housewife thing going on, and
Yeah.
drinking at 4 or 5 o'clock while you're making your dinner is cool. All the kids
Try
are playing.
11 AM
Yeah.
on
Oh
Playdate.
God. I'm
Yeah,
not
try
gonna
11
say it
AM on
never.
Playdate.
Exactly. I'm
Mhm.
not going to say it didn't happen. It definitely did. I
Oh,
tried
yeah.
to because I was a little bit of a perfectionist and because I was also getting involved in church at that time. So I also had
Mhm, mhm.
another image to uphold. And
Oh,
that
yeah.
was the one that I thought the church needed from me. Right. And
Mhm.
so here I was trying to uphold all these images. And yes, I came face to face with this idea that I was truly enraged deep down inside and I had never processed all that anger. And
Yeah.
when I was in the sexual abuse therapeutic groups, one day I had the peer counselor look at me and said, "You are full of rage." And I was like,
Mhm.
"No, I'm not. No, I'm not. You're crazy."
Isn't
And
it
she said,
funny how
"Well,
other people can see it?
right. Yeah. And you're crazy." So she
Yeah.
said, "Go ahead and ask your peers." Now, at that point, I'd already been in this group with these ladies for a period of time, maybe 6 weeks consecutively, twice a week. So they knew me, they knew my story, we knew each other. And
Mhm,
she said,
mhm.
she said, "Well, does anyone else see that?" And it was every single woman in the room. And that day, I was given the blessing of being able to probably go through my first ego death. This is before plant medicine. But at that
Yeah.
point, I'm sitting there going, holy shit.
Mhm,
Everything that I ever thought I was an egoic construct of
mhm.
survival. These are all images, even the tough girl, because I could do anything, be anything, and I was definitely fearless, and I still am, but
Mhm.
in a restored kind of way, not in a striving because if I don't do this, I'm unacceptable, I'm not worthy. Those were the deep underlying messages.
Yeah.
But I had to sit there, and this is what I wanted to say too to the anger that you brought up, and sitting with that anger is I had to sit there and allow myself to recognize and
Mhm.
admit that I was and had been for a very long time enraged.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
then the next step after acknowledging this was to acknowledge all of the identities that were created through it, and
Yes.
then to acknowledge that what had happened to me was not my fault, but
Mhm.
additionally go a step further and allow the blame to fall on the individuals that were responsible for protecting me,
Exactly.
the individuals that, the person that did the abuse. There
Mhm.
was a period of time that I had a really hard time with this, and a lot of people do. And that was the counselor said to me, "You've got to let yourself feel the anger toward your parents for not being
Oh,
who they
yes.
needed to be at that
That
time."
is so hard. That is
It is
so hard
hard.
because
We
we're
don't want to
taught
blame.
yeah, we're taught growing up to respect our elders and that family is family no matter what. And it was the same way with me when I was doing my integration work and my therapy work. I was told, just like you multiple times, you have to allow yourself to be angry at those who did not protect you. Specifically, your mother. She knew.
Yeah.
I mean, Teresa, I told you this, she knew. She found blood on my panties when I was 8 years old,
Mm.
took me to the doctor. She blamed my grandfather, but yet still continued to allow me to go to my grandparents' house. Make it make sense, right? But
Rita,
yeah,
your
and
story is so many women's stories, and
it
so
really,
many women
truly
have
is.
so many women have yet to find the courage to speak out. And this is not a put down. This is a to me, this
Mhm,
podcast, even though you didn't come to one of our ceremonies yet, because most of our
mhm,
interviews have been with our members, but your story resonated so much with so many parts of my journey, and it's so powerful in and of itself. And so many women that are going to hear this, and even
mhm.
men, have, felt the same thing, and also have been through abuse within the home where
Yeah.
parents knew it was happening. Now, in my home, I've had a lot of healing with my mother. And
Mhm.
one of the tragic things that had happened in the scenario where I was abused by the employer is
Mhm.
that my mother actually was also living with PTSD of sexual abuse trauma, pretty
Yeah.
extensive. And she didn't think about him wanting to hurt me. She thought, because she said she picked up the vibes that he was off and shut her door that night.
And she thought it was
And
about her.
so
Mhm.
yeah, so she had to deal with a ton of guilt over, over that situation. And so we've had to do a lot of healing. She's had to do a lot of healing herself. And
Yeah.
I have had moments with my mom where I'm like, "Mom," everybody's different. My mom, I can at least say, has been on this healing journey with me. And not
Mhm.
everyone is going to get to do the healing journey with their
No.
parents. And in that case, what we're trained and taught to do through different therapeutic modalities is we can still address the anger
Mhm.
towards and to the people that should have definitely protected us and didn't. We have to get it off of
Yeah.
ourselves, because as a child, you are
Mhm.
supposed to be protected by your caregivers, your parents. When you are not, be it of their knowledge or not, there is
Mhm.
something that happens internally on a psychological level, and that internal shame and self protection mechanism will come
Mhm.
in, and it will have its own identity over the course of your entire life. It will run and rule everything that you do. And so
Yeah, it
I've
really
had
truly does.
it will run and rule everything that you do. So when you get a chance after something like a ceremony, or if you get into some type of therapy and you start actually naming those
Mhm.
things and where they belong and get it off of yourself, right?
Mhm.
And allow yourself to feel it. And like you said, you came out of ceremony and you didn't understand why you were now so angry, but it didn't
Yeah.
go away right away. You ended up, it just came up, right? It's
Mhm.
like a pipe was unclogged, and then
Oh,
it was like,
100%. Yeah, it
yeah,
just exploded. I mean, even the ladies who help run the retreat and who are there full time and do the integration, I mean, they nicknamed me Fireball
that's awesome.
because of my anger, the anger that I
Wow.
had. And I tried really hard not to push that anger off on other people while I was there, but there's a lot of us out there that feel vibes. And it really hits us. And I unfortunately threw my vibes off onto some other people and wasn't the kindest of me to do. I've learned how to reel that in over the years. But yeah, sitting with that anger. And then when it came to my mom's never taken accountability for it.
Mm,
She unfortunately has made it all about herself. My trauma has now become all about her.
mm,
Um, she never apologized. None of that. And Teresa, I'm okay with that because
yeah,
I've set boundaries. I've set hardcore boundaries in my life, boundaries I never had. And that threw people in my life for a loop. I lost a lot of people in my life because I was no longer willing to accept the bare minimum in
that's
life.
right. That's
You
right.
got to show up and do. or else I'm sorry, you can't be a part of my life. I'm not here to make you comfortable. I'm here to live my life and speak my truth. And I've told that to my mother on multiple occasions. And once again, the narcissistic victim comes out in her and she tries to flip it. And so now finally, I have a very, very nominal relationship with my mother. It's a once a week FaceTime. I call it my proof of life because she's 75 years old. She has dementia. I'm not expecting anything from her in that regards, also because of the dementia. She can't even remember when we talked last. And so boundaries are there with her. And at the end of the day, I feel sad.
I know.
I
I
feel
know.
sad for her because we're amazing kids. Even with all of the trauma that has happened in my life, I'm one of four. But with her, there's just two of us. And my older brother and I are awesome. Like, I am so proud of my older brother. He's got an amazing set of kids. My nephew just graduated from the Air Force Basics and is off to live his life and serve our country. My niece is becoming a registered nurse, and she's smart and beautiful and kind, and that's because my brother, like me, chose to break those generational traumas. He didn't go to therapy, he didn't go and do plant medicine, but he knew something had to change within his own right, and he had to be a better father, a better parent to them than what we got, and I'm proud of him, and I'm proud of me. I really am. It's been a journey and it's still a journey. Like I've always said, when people ask me about this, well, are you done healing? No, you're never done healing. You're never done healing. Um, I'm just in a constant, I'm climbing one mountain. Once I get to that mountain, I slide back down and I start climbing that next mountain. And it's been hard.
Yeah.
There have been a lot of sleepless nights. There's been a lot of crying. There's still a lot of anger
Yeah.
in me, but I've learned how to manage it, and I've learned how to talk about it and
Yeah.
not feel ashamed about my life. Like I was telling my husband last night, I was just like, I'm not sharing from a wound. I'm sharing from a scar, and there's power in that.
Oof.
Well,
Yes.
I'm not here sharing for attention, like, "Oh, look at me." I've never been one of those, "Oh, look at me" people, even though I am a Leo on the astrological chart. But I've never been one of those "look at me" Leos, you know? I'm not here for validation, you know? I'm here because truth liberates,
Oof.
and if my story of resilience, recovery, and healing becomes light for just one person standing in the darkness, then I've honored exactly why I was placed here and what grandmother ayahuasca asked me to do.
And that is, I was going to say a little bit ago when you were talking about the boundaries that you've been implementing and
Mhm,
the way that you've been standing in your power and allowing yourself to feel the fierceness. I was going to say, to me, that is a godlike expression of the divine feminine in
mhm,
you. Right. And that's what ayahuasca is, the divine feminine, the mother. She brings
mhm.
us back to the mother. And
Yeah.
like I had told you on our phone call, I have not sat with the ayahuasca brew, but I do work
Mhm.
with ayahuasca hape. And so I
Okay.
have had a chance to encounter, my journey started off with ayahuasca hape, which I had a radical healing in my body through
Yeah.
that. And that healing came through an encounter with the mother, God, the mother, as far as
Mhm.
I see this. And so I love that fierce mama bear energy is rising up inside of you. You and I and others like us truly are um
We're change
generational.
makers.
Yes, change generational changers, I'm
Mhm.
looking for words there, but we are
Yeah.
breaking those bonds by speaking out, by um, uh, confronting what it is that's been in the shadows for so long. And that's in a form that's called shadow work, being
Mhm.
willing to bring those things up into the visibility, into the conscious realm so that we can see them, acknowledge them, look at all the different
Exactly.
ideas that were attached to them about who I am. And I wanted to say we have just a couple minutes left, but I did want to say that for anyone that's listening today and you are resonating with, you have been going through, you've been going through it maybe
Mhm.
for a long time. Maybe your children are young, maybe your children are grown, maybe you never had any and you are wounded over that. Maybe you are like me. I was explaining earlier that because of the anger that I had in my life, I was also abusive to my brothers and sisters.
Mhm.
I was violent. I
Mhm.
physically hurt my sibling, and I still hurt over that,
Yeah.
you know? But I am healing. The healing process is also a regenerative process. If we look at the body and we look how environmental factors are constantly breaking down our bodies
Oh,
on a
yeah.
cellular level, but your cells are constantly regenerating. So
Mhm.
healing is a constant state of regeneration.
It is. It
So
really
first
true. It
we
really truly is.
yeah, first we address the parts of us that are more likened to a virus or a fracture,
Ugh.
right? First, you have like the ER visit, and that's where a lot of people are coming in and they're at that state where they've got serious fractures, serious
Those
crisis
symptoms. Mhm.
symptoms, right? Then we address those things first. That's usually what the medicine does is address those things that are like life threatening to some capacity. And
Mhm.
then and then we get to eventually get into more of a maintenance mode, which is not a coasting, but it is a proactive regeneration, continually leaning
Mhm.
into what can I understand about myself a bit more because there's more freedom. There is infinite freedom available to us if we'll tap into it.
Yeah, and I'm still learning and processing 3 years later after my first ceremony, and it wasn't just a 1 6-week retreat that I've been on. I've been on multiple retreats over these last 3 years, and I'm actually getting ready to go back, mid-April because I need a reset. My body is telling me I need a reset because I do still have some of that stored anger inside of me. I'm processing other things from my past, not just from the age of 6 until I was 15, but those things that happened after I was 15.
Yeah.
The drugs, the alcohol, the boys, my first marriage, that wasn't the nicest of marriages. There was abuse in it. There was verbal abuse. At the end of it, it became physical. The cheating, the affairs, not just on his part, but on my part, all of it. I'm still integrating and healing and processing it all. And it's continuous. And I know it's going to be continuous until the day that I die.
Mm. And we can make this, it doesn't have to be, it can be an adventure. It
It
really
is.
can. What
It
can I
really
discover today? How can I implement a different way? How can I allow myself to
Mhm.
think a little differently today than I did yesterday? It doesn't have to be working on myself because
No.
we are good.
Yeah.
We are good. It's how can I discover more abundance? How can I discover more liberty? How can I
Mhm.
discover today more freaking joy, right?
Exactly.
And
100%
self-love.
exactly. Exactly, and the one of the big reasons why I'm going back is that this last year and a half, almost 2 years for me has been crazy. Just like you, we got boys the same age, so we had graduation that happened from high
Yes.
school.
My oldest
Then
is my daughter, but yes.
yeah, moving off to mine's moved off to college 8.5 hours away, and becoming an empty nester for the first time and being with my spouse whom I've never been with without children.
Mm.
It's continuous learning and it's fun and it's been an adventure. And I'm looking forward to going back and working in the mountains and working with the medicine and seeing what else comes out. Teresa, I'm nervous, yet I'm really excited because I know it's going to be good for me. And I know it's going to create more joy and more happiness inside of me. And it's going to be really good for my husband and I because like I stated, we don't know each other without children. It's wild. It's wild having him without children in the
It's time
house.
to start dating again and with a whole
We
new
have
set of
been because
eyes.
he went on his own journey of self-healing. I'm not gonna tell his story because that's not my place, but he, like us, had a traumatic childhood as well with parents who weren't quite there and whatever, and he needed to heal his brokenness inside. And once we both started doing that, Teresa, our marriage has flourished. Just like my relationship with my children has flourished, my kids text me every day. They call me every day to tell me what's going on in their lives. When before Aya, I'd get the I'm fine, I'm good, from my kids. Same way with my
Mhm.
husband. Yeah, I'm good, I'm fine.
There
Very
was energetic block that came
yeah,
down.
very little emotional connection there. And then after the ceremonies, it was like a field of wildflowers exploding in bloom
Wow.
with my relationship with my husband and my relationship with my children. There were many tears shed of me apologizing, me taking accountability for my actions and not being the mother my children needed me to be in their lives when they were younger. But I'm just like, I'm here now. Mom's here now, and I got you, and I ain't going anywhere. And same way with my husband. Dude's my best friend. He's my best friend. I don't want to hang out with anybody else. I don't like other people. He's my best friend. I
Rita,
mean,
your
it's really,
story is so inspiring. Your story is so inspiring. We're out of time, but I am just
yes,
so
I know.
incredibly excited to see where your journey goes. I know we'll stay in
Yeah.
touch.
Oh,
And
definitely. Yes, definitely.
thank you. Just thank you so much for having the courage to
Yeah,
to do this, to come on and to share because I know that somebody needed to hear this.
I believe it too. And I thank you guys so much for all the work you do. Really, truly, from my heart to your all's hearts, I'm just so appreciative of not only you having me here to tell my story, but the work you guys do. The work that you do and the work that you do with first responders and veterans. That really, really means a lot to me as a wife who lives in that world. Um, Thank you. There's not enough thank yous in the world. So much gratitude. I'm so appreciative of you guys.
Thank you, Rita. That's going to be it for today. But that's also going to lead me to my closing point here that we, Sacred Warrior Fellowship, are a place for veterans, first responders, and their families, and civilians,
Mhm.
everybody. We will turn no one away. We would love to get you involved in ceremony or in any of our group connections. And to those that are listening today, as I started to say before, if you need someone to talk to, if you need to get connected with a path for healing, then please reach out to us at sacredwarriorfellowship.com. Please go check out our Instagram. You can also message us right there on Instagram, Sacred Warrior Fellowship. And you can reach out to me. I'm on Instagram as well, Teresa Noach. And if you are also wondering how you can contribute to nofallenheroes.org, which is the Buckley's Foundation, sending veterans, first responders, and their families on psychedelic assisted therapeutic retreats all over the world, including to our retreats at Sacred Warrior Fellowship. They the foundation is there to make sure that everybody has access to this opportunity if you are a veteran or a first responder. And so, to all my listeners, thank you so much. Get connected, and we look forward to talking to you again soon. Bye bye.